Brave only music.
Guys, it's a girl Angel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's good to have you back, and it's good to have me back. Well, anyway, so guys, I thought I would jump on and talk to you guys about something. So, um, where I come from, there's this tendency for adults that adults, let's call them people that have lived way past your age, or relations, aunties, uncles, friends, people that are generally older than you. So to kind of speak to you in regards to marriage. It's like, okay, when you get to a certain age, people start questioning whether you are still a woman or whether you're still a man, or why are you taking so long to meet somebody. People start thinking that you are cursed. They have so many things to say anyway, and most of the times those things are really not good. So really, my question is, when is the right time to be married? Is there like a fixated time when somebody should be married? Is it that when somebody isn't married at a certain age, then they lose their significance on this earth? Isn't it that they encourage us to find ourselves, find our purpose, enjoy that life of being single, and also have that time so that you can actually, get to have a relationship with your God? For me, because I'm a Christian, I would look at it in those terms. So you being single is more like a time for you to actually get to know God, is a time for you to get to know God and have a relationship with Him, have a personal relationship with Him. Because they say when you get married, things you still have a relationship with God, but like there's a lot of things involved, a lot of dimensions to marriage that do not really give you that liberty to serve your God. So, guys, what is your opinion about this whole thing? Because when I came over here, diaspora, when I came over here and I started dating, I realized that people don't really put a age limit on when you are supposed to be married. And like parents are kind of really cool. They're okay with the fact that even if you don't want to settle down, nobody will force you to do it. But like where I come from, it's like you're under pressure to meet somebody. You're under pressure to, play the part. I feel like it's playing the part, because right now I know so many people that are in miserable homes because of that voice from everybody else, because they chose to listen to everybody else but the voice of God within them. They chose to listen to the peer pressures of the world that led them to be married. They are not happy, they are miserable. And with seeing so many miseries, I have thought to myself, and I thought, I do not want to rush myself into getting into anything that I know I'm not prepared for. And I feel like the time that you are not married is the time for you to prepare for, whatever it is that you are expectant from God. So be it marriage, school, etc., etc. So my point is, it shouldn't have to be a thing that you it shouldn't have to be a thing you do. You shouldn't have to be forced or pushed to be married. You need to be married for the right reasons, otherwise you will be miserable. We have a huge number of people that were married and are now divorced. And not to say they are bad people, But I feel like a lot of people just rush in thinking when they get into marriage, they're going to find heaven, or it's going to be like this, it's going to be like that. They have this picture, this painted picture, an image that they have of what exactly their marriage is going to look like. But in reality, that's not exactly how it is. I'm not going to say that a marriage is bad. I saw my parents were married, and I had never seen my parents fight for the entire life that I lived, that God allowed me to see them in their marriage. I had never seen them fight ever. I had never seen my dad lay his finger on my mom in regard to anything, or I had never heard my mom raise her voice to my dad. I cannot remember any moment when that happened, except one time. There was a time when my mom had to sleep in our room, and I just had a feeling that maybe they did have a fight, because back home there's these little things, I don't know what you can call them over here. It's like a chamber. You kind of, how you have like a gallon of milk, and so you make this little hole inside of it, so you use it to urinate inside it instead of going to the toilet. So her plan, I'm assuming, was so she wouldn't have to meet my dad in the hallway. So she made that little I call it a chamber. I don't know what you'll call it, but I'm gonna call it a chamber because that's what we call it. And she was using that to ease herself, and that was the first time and the last time that I ever saw my mom sleep in our room. And that, I'm assuming, they fought because why was she sleeping in our room? So when I look at the picture that I saw of my parents in their marriage, I picture myself in that kind of situation. I don't want to be married because my auntie thinks I'm getting old, or my uncle thinks I'm getting old, or my friends say, oh my god, you're getting old and you're not getting married, everybody's gonna judge you. Like, I don't care what you think. Whether I'm married or not, that's really none of your business. And if I choose not to do it, that is also none of your business. If you love me as a friend, as a sister, whatever, just love me for who I am. Whether or not I am engaged or seeing anybody, that's just my business. If I choose to be married, which obviously every woman, every young woman would love, to be honored with the privilege of being engaged to somebody or being married to somebody that they love, not because they have been pressured to do it, but because they are prepared for it and they want to do it. I would not like to be married because my friend's married, or my friend's married to a man that looks like this, that means I should be married to a man like that. It doesn't work like that for me. If I don't have it, I don't need it. My pastor always used to say, if you don't have something, then you don't need it. That means that you don't even need to start looking for it, because it's not, you don't need it. There's a difference between a want and a need. You need to eat food to survive. You need to drink water to be hydrated. But when you want a pair of shoes, or you want to go bowling, you want to visit a friend, those are wants. It's not the same as a need. A need is something that's like a long run kind of thing. You need water, you need food, you need to exercise in order to get a certain result, or certain goals. Let's say your aim is to have a six pack. You need to watch your diet. You need to eat food a certain way. You need to drink water, etc., etc., things like that. So if people are pressuring you and you feel like, oh my God, I feel under pressure, do not be under pressure for no reason. A lot of marriages are breaking, are hurting, they are on the rocks. Most people stay in those marriages not because they are happy, but because of the children. And it's not fair for you as a human being to be in a marriage just because you're staying for the kids. And most times it's the only thing that is keeping you in there. So how long will you stay? For 18 years you are gonna wait for your kids to grow because you are staying for your children. You don't want to be that person. So if you are a young lady out there and you look at me and you're like, oh my God, Annie is doing this, I'm sure she met somebody, quit thinking like that. I'm gonna get married when the right time comes. And for now, I would appreciate all those humongous messages that you all have been sending me in regard to when are you gonna get married? It's gonna happen when it's gonna happen. Or when are you gonna have kids? Yo, I'm not just gonna pick up some peanuts and tell the my bad. I'm not gonna tell anybody and tell them to impregnate me so I can have a baby so I can please you. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be the person that I am, and I'm gonna wait on God, because I know that once God blesses me, He blesses for a lifetime. So for anybody out there that feels, oh my God, my sister's married, that means I need to get married, please do not pressure your boyfriend or your girlfriend into getting married just because you have seen somebody married out there and you're like, oh my God, they look so cute. In my dialect, we say, inganda baikumbo mtenge. You will be admiring the house from the roof because the roof looks beautiful. Whenever they are building the house, the rooftop of the house looks magnificent. And when you look at it, you're like, oh my God, that is a beautiful house. I bet the interior of that house is as gorgeous as the outside. But that's not always the case. Just because the roof of the house looks all shiny and beautiful doesn't mean that the reality of what is inside is as beautiful as the roof. So that's a proverb that we say, inganda baikumbo mtenge. People will admire your house from the rooftop, but they don't know what is inside the house. So do not be in a hurry for nothing. Pursue your dreams. Have that relationship with God. Read your Bible more. Listen to more motivational talks. Exercise more. Do things that you can do by yourself. Enjoy that time alone, and also make sure that you are having that intimate relationship with your God if you are a Christian. Or just find yourself, find your purpose, find your calling. Do not be rushed into getting married, you know. I'm not saying marriage is bad. I want to be married. I want to be honored in a way that somebody will look at me and they will want me to be the person that they love. But even as they love me, I want them to love God, because I come from a background of Christianity. And for me, Christianity, being a Christian and being a believer, being a child of God is very important to me. So those are the things that I would like. But before then, I'm going to go ahead and just be a happy person and not be pressured by anybody and feel like, oh my God, my friend's married, that means I also need to do it. No, don't do that. Do not do that. Do not feel obliged or obligated to be married, or force your man to go get a loan that is gonna end up bringing problems to you, and then you have to pay for it because you invited so many people to eat your food because it's your wedding and you're gonna make those people eat. Then you have to pay for the venue, then you have to pay for clothing, stuff like wedding dress, whatever it is that you have to pay for. You know what I mean? And then who is gonna remain in debt when all those people are not there and it's just you and your husband, and you don't even have money to pay for your first rent? It's ridiculous. Don't do those things, guys. It's just ridiculous. Wait for God's time. I am reminded of the book of Esther, when Esther, was looked at as a little nobody, like, oh my God, she's just a little orphan and she's just gonna end up with some random guy and her life is just gonna be like this. Some people probably predicted, oh, Esther is just gonna be this girl. But you know what? God always has these big plans for his children. That person that people look at and they're like, oh my God, this person, it's game over. She's not gonna do anything in life. And they speak words that are lifeless over that person's life, not knowing that every person has a destiny. And no matter how hard your destiny looks, no matter how hard your journey looks from your perspective, from your eyes, at the end it shall speak. Just like Esther, as I said, I'm reminded of her story. A young girl, an orphan. Is it possible that there were not any other beautiful virgins besides Esther? I don't think so. I think there were probably much more beautiful maidens, virgins, that were much more beautiful than her, that had much more beautiful figure than her. But you know what? When God favors you and God says, you know what, Annie, this is your time and you are going to shine, my daughter, because I say so. Even if somebody says you are cursed, if God says you are blessed, it's over. It's done. That's it. And that girl, in the eyes of the king, she found favor. That is how life happens. That's how things change in life. Things may look so bad, or how we look at Hannah and how she was ridiculed by the other wife, the other wife to her husband. She was ridiculed, she was mocked, to a point when she went to pray, she was whispering, and the priest thought she was crazy. He thought she had drunk so much alcohol, but she didn't drink so much alcohol. She had this thing in her heart. And she was bleeding inside because even though her husband loved her so much, she had that one thing that was hurting her, that was breaking her, that made her wake up every night and cry to her God. But this time she cried to her God and said, God, this is what I need from you. I need a son. You need to change my story. And as she prayed, she vowed to God. She said, if you give me a son, God, no razor shall go in that boy's head. Sometimes you need to be able to reach a point where you make the vow. Make the vow not because you are pressured, just like life is. Sometimes there are things that we go through in life that require a change. Those changes only come if you go to the altar and make the vow. It's just how life is. And Hannah had to go to the altar and make a vow, a personal vow to God. Sometimes it has to be in your giving. Sometimes you have something and God has been speaking to you and saying, you need to give this money to the kingdom of God, or you need to give this money to the orphans. You need to do this. It might not just be money. It could be anything, and God has been speaking to you and you have not been listening. You have not been listening. I remember there was a time back home. I think I entered into a session of prayer and fasting. I think I did. I don't remember how many days it was. I think it was 3 days or something. And when I finished doing that fasting, mind you, at this point, both my parents were already deceased. So I was very involved in my church. I was in the choir. I was in the youth team. I was like everywhere. I enjoyed serving my God. So this point, we had a laptop in the house. And this is a laptop that my dad left for us. It was something that he worked for the longest. And I kept hearing the voice of God telling me, you need to give this laptop to this specific person. And this specific person actually needed the laptop. We didn't even need it. We used the laptop for pretty much nothing. We had a TV, we had a laptop, but we didn't really use it. Like there was no need for it. It was more like a luxury and not a need. But the person that God kept speaking to me about really needed the laptop. And it was very hard. It was a very hard decision. It was hard for me to speak to my family about it. I was younger, and maybe in my head I'm thinking maybe I was just hearing my own voice. Was it my voice? Was it God? But it kept coming so strong. You need to give this laptop to this person. And I did it. I got the laptop. I said, you know what? If they hate me, they hate me, but they're not gonna hate me forever. God, I choose to obey you. I took the laptop and I gave this person this laptop. Immediately I did that. I didn't know that the person needed it. When I did give the laptop, it was like the person was so blessed. It was like, and I don't know how I can explain it, but when you obey God and you do the thing that He is telling you to do, so be it a seed or whatever it might be, and you obey, there are just certain doors that open, that even when you go through certain things in life, you start to realize that the prayers of those people, or the words that they spoke when you sowed that seed, it's like even though you go through hardships, it's like, I don't know how I can explain. It's like a major open doors. Even when you go through a situation where it's like completely hard, like it's really, really hard. When God comes through for you, honey, if you obey Him and He says, go left, and you go left, you go right. If He says, move, leave all your belongings, go to this town, go. Do not be asking questions, but Lord, why am I going here? Why are you making me do this? Why are you making me leave everything behind? I am that person that God has spoken to number of times when He would just tell me, girl, leave everything, go now. And when I make those moves, because I'm generally just a type of person who likes, to try out new things, and I'm just a go-getter. I if I wanna go somewhere, I'm not the type of person that, oh, somebody's gonna tie me to one particular space or a particular event. I like to explore and do things, but even as I explore, I know and I am mindful of whose child I belong to. I am a child of God, and when God says go, I have to go. And when I do obey, most times heaven opens for me because I have been obedient. Be obedient to the voice of God. Be obedient to the fact that He has been speaking to you to make that vow, to sow that seed, to help those orphans, to help your parents, whatever it is that it might be. Make sure that you are listening, because when you miss the voice of God in regard to a particular thing, you miss out on certain blessings. And some blessings, they are seasonal, and there are other blessings that come once in a lifetime. You don't want to miss a once in a lifetime blessing. There are seasonal blessings, they come and they go. But there are those blessings that if God says, this is yours, Annie, and I miss the instruction, it will probably take me a decade or just the grace of God for me to be able to reach that goal. So today, guys, that is what I wanted to talk to you about. I moved from marriage because the Spirit of God led me to speak about this right now. So I hope this is an encouragement to somebody. Listen to the voice of God. Do not be disobedient. And if you are listening to your own voice that is telling you to hate on people, to be on whatever, you need to get on your knees and talk to your God and let God speak to you. Listen to God. God is speaking in so many different ways right now, and He is saying a lot of different things. I think we people take for granted the fact that we have servants of God that speak, and then when a certain incident happens, we're like, oh, but where are the pastors? Where are the prophets? But the prophets have been speaking. Have you been listening? When they say things, do you listen to them? You're probably like, he's just blabbing, she's just blabbing. Because we don't want to listen. We want to listen after a scenario of confusion happens and we're like, but where are the prophets? But where are the pastors? But where were you when they were giving the message? Where were you when they said there is this thing that is coming and we need to pray for the grace and the mercy of God? Where were you? Did you pray? Did you cry out to God? Did you cry for mercy? Did you say, God, we need your mercy? Did you do that? Not that I know of. I'm assuming we didn't do it. So when God is speaking, let us, be obedient and listen to the voice of God. And please do not be forced into anything because you feel under pressure by anybody. Do not do it. And I hope you have a good one and be blessed.